Senator Tom Tillis needs to go. He's a RINO, one of the RINOs that we need to get rid of. I'm going to tell you why in just a second. This is one of the things I've been talking about quite a bit. We all know Congress really is not doing anything. The Senate is really not doing anything at this moment. Now, they confirmed a lot of Trump's picks for cabinet members. Some things were a major fight. We get it, right? But ever since that's about the last thing they've really done to benefit the American people. They're not codifying Trump's executive orders into law. They're really not doing anything except for concerning themselves with, who gets to proxy vote because they're going to have a baby, and who gets to go in the bathrooms and bullshit like that. And of course they did pass another major spending bill in the beginning that Trump was all gung-ho about. That the only stand-up guy about this was Thomas Massey. He refused to sign it, so now he's supposed to be the RINO. He's not, though. He's not. They've got it confused. It's people like Tom Tillis. They're the RINOs. I'm going to tell you why. So before I do, it's Friday. Finally, guys, you can see it on my face. I haven't been home all week. I'm looking all scruffy and shit, like a homeless guy. But today I'm going to be going home. It's the end of the week. So Friday, the 16th of May, 2025. It's now 6:40 a.m. here in Germany, and we're going to talk about Tom Tillis on the Insanity Report for today. So Tom Tillis basically tanked Ed Martin's nomination for U.S. Attorney for D.C. Now Ed Martin is going to be replaced on May 20th, I believe, by Judge Jeanine Pirro. She's going to be temporary until they find, a new one. Now, Trump wanted Ed Martin in, and, look, on the one hand, you want Congress people and senators to use their own brain and their own principles to vote yes or no on certain things, right? That you should be able to do that. If I was going to go into the Senate or into Congress, I wouldn't want to be forced to vote on everything, even though I don't agree with the thing. You know what I mean? So you do have to kind of have your own critical thinking thing going on, and you shouldn't be a hive mind, even though that kind of works for the Democrats. But that's not the kind of thing I would want to play on, so I can't expect that the Republicans do that. But my problem with Tom Tillis is not that he blocked Ed Martin, right? And that shows you how thin the margin actually is. All we need is one dude to say no, and then that's it. The guy doesn't get in, he doesn't get confirmed. That's pretty crazy. That's not a lot of that's not a big margin of error that we have in the Congress at the moment. So when it comes time for the midterms, the people need to start voting in more Republicans in their district so that margin is bigger. But the Republicans do have to be good. You know what I mean? So I think we got to get rid of Tom Tillis, right? Because Tom Tillis blocked Ed Martin, not because Ed Martin's a bad guy, or because Ed Martin is secretly a Democrat, or Ed Martin has done something egregious. No, Tom Tillis, a Republican's reason for not voting for Ed Martin to continue to be the U.S. Attorney for D.C. is because he defended January 6thers. Okay, so that says all I need to know, right? And it's all you need to know. If you live in North Carolina, that's where he's from. That's the state he's representing. Now, a lot of North Carolinians are still suffering, right, from last year. I'm sure Tom Tillis, as a senator, had to have tried to do something in order to get relief on these people. All good. That's part of his job. He should do that. What is not his job is to essentially put his personal feelings about January 6th into voting. You know what I mean? Because January 6th was basically just a riot. Again, nobody's ever been arrested or fucking put in prison, or no investigations, no committees, no nothing about the May 29th insurrection, which was basically an actual insurrection where a far leftist bombed the fucking White House, or firebombed the White House guard post. They burnt down St. John's Church. They injured numerous Secret Service and police agents on May 29th. And then the Democrats made fun of Trump because he had to go into a bunker, because they moved him into a bunker and called him Bunker Boy. This insurrection, no consequences whatsoever, right? None. But January 6th, there's still Republicans like Tom Tillis who apparently feel like January 6th was so egregious and it was such an insurrection and it's so unforgivable that even the people that defended them, which every person in America, right, even illegal aliens apparently, have the right to some sort of due process. So they have the right to get a lawyer, right? A lot of people we know, and so does Tom Tillis, a lot of people that were charged in January 6th, for January 6th, were either not even there, they didn't cause any violence, they were just there walking around, they got waved into the building, and people have faced extreme punishment for this kind of shit, even though in any other situation it would be considered a misdemeanor or whatever. There were very few people that actually committed violence. The only person that died on the day was Ashley Babbitt, who was murdered by a police officer that still has not been charged with murder. You know what I'm saying? This cop was aiming a weapon at an unarmed civilian American who was breaking a pane of glass, right? And just blew her head off. Now, good, Trump's administration got the settlement for the family, but she's still dead, isn't she? Right? And this cop, apparently, is still a cop. I don't know if he resigned or anything. I don't think he did. I think he's still a cop. He's not been charged anyway, right? And I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are going to say, yeah, but technicality and this and immunity or whatever the fuck all the arguments are. I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a fuck. He point blank murdered a fucking American citizen for breaking a pane of glass, okay? So that's the way that is. And then you've got Tom Tillis who says, well, you know, this guy defended some of these January 6 people, so I can't vote for him. Well, that means that this Republican is actually basically a Democrat, right? Basically he's a Democrat because he has bought into the insurrection narrative where all the January 6 people suddenly shouldn't deserve due process, shouldn't be able to get lawyers, shouldn't be able to get defended. They should just be picked off the street, thrown in a fucking cell, and the key should be thrown away. That's basically the guy's standpoint. Because if it wasn't, that wouldn't be the thing that's blocking him from voting for Ed Martin or for being on Ed Martin's side, right? And that's the reason why I think Tom Tillis should be primaried. And he's not the only one, right? Right now, Republicans are doing very little, right? And again, I'll say it again. You can go on the congress.gov website and look under your representative's name in your state. It's very easy. Just go on there. Today, it's even easier. You can just ask Grok, right, what your representative is voting on, right? And Grok will probably know. Now, you probably have to double check it. You can't trust AI completely, at least not yet. It still makes mistakes. Grok's pretty good, you know what I'm saying? Almost everything that I have asked Grok and I verified later, Grok's been pretty right on most stuff. So, either way, whether you ask Grok, ask an AI, or just go to the congress.gov website, bookmark the page where your representative is on, and then every couple of weeks or every couple of months, you look on that page and see what are they voting for? What are they doing? What are their accomplishments? What bills have they proposed? What bills have they not proposed? And you will see what that congressperson is doing. Now, the best way to get a congressperson to start moving in the direction you want them to move in is by writing emails to them, contacting them in one way or another, going to town halls that they may go to, and basically threatening them and saying, dude, if you're not going to be here to represent our interests, right, and if you're not going to be here to solidify the MAGA agenda, right, well then you got to go. And we will vote in a fucking Democrat if you don't start getting your ass in gear, right? That's pretty much the only thing, because all these people like Tom Tillis want is they want to have their job, right? They want to get reelected. They like this job. It pays a lot. They have power. You know, they get their fucking backroom deals or whatever the fuck they get to be, insider trading. Also, still nothing's been done about that in Congress. Weird, huh? Because when the MAGA, when Trump was running around for to be elected president, you heard a lot of Congress people out there talking about, well, yeah, we really got to stop this insider trading, and Nancy Pelosi, no, yeah, we got to stop it. Well, we've been, you know, we've been here for 4 months now. And of course, who the president is has no bearing on the bills that Congress tries to pass. So they could have done this a long time ago. They could have got rid of insider trading a long time ago. They just haven't, and they're still not doing it. Now, I heard that there is some proposal, but anyway, it's not happening, right? It's not happening. It's a lot of talk and a lot of brouhaha, but nothing is happening. That's Congress. That's been Congress for the longest time. And that's the RINO Republicans. They make sure that things don't happen. They get on TV and they get on YouTube and they talk about a lot of stuff happening. But when it comes time to do the deed, they're not doing shit, right? They're just not doing shit. And so Tom Tillis, if his standpoint is, I can't vote for this guy because he did his job as a lawyer and defended American citizens against lawfare by the government over January 6th, then he doesn't see the significance of, he doesn't see that January 6th was really not that big a deal anymore. Okay? It just really wasn't. I know that everybody wants to hype it up and it's an insurrection, it's the worst thing we've ever seen since the Civil War, and oh, blah, blah, blah. It's really not. BLM riots during the George Floyd bullshit, you know what I'm saying? Those were a lot worse than January 6th, and everybody fucking knows it, right? Again, the May 29th insurrection, which was closer to an actual insurrection than January 6th was, that was also way worse, right? Way worse. And yet, nothing gets done about that. You don't hear Tom Tillis whining about that shit, right? No, he's whining about January 6th. So that basically disqualifies him completely from being a good representative, because the fact is, if you think January 6th was an insurrection, and you think that the people that were involved in January 6th, no matter if they were violent or not, if you think those people are unworthy of a defense by a lawyer, then you're a piece of shit, right? You're a piece of shit that doesn't believe in the values and the standards that the United States justice system and Constitution is based on. You only believe in them when they serve your own interests, right? So that's who Tom Tillis is. That's who Tom Tillis is. He's a guy who gets up there and swears an oath to the Constitution and that he's going to be representing the interests and the values of the American people. And then his standpoint turns out to be, yeah, except for people that were involved in January 6th. You know, serial killers, baby rapers, everybody gets a fair trial, everybody gets a lawyer. That's what I believe in. But January 6th people, that goes too far. Sorry, guys, I can't go for that. I can't vote for a lawyer that defended January 6 people. Well, fuck Tom Tillis, right? Get rid of that fucker. And I'm telling you, people, look, I have this conversation almost daily with my buddy K-Mag from Texas, also with my friend Paul from Missouri, because they still live in the States. I live in Germany. You know, and I have this conversation with them daily about holding people accountable, and about the valuing the Congress doing their job and valuing the oath that they were supposed to stand on. And it really is unbelievable how I lost my train of thought. It's unbelievable that there are still Congress people and senators, right, that are supposed to be essentially on the side of the people. And the majority of the people that voted for Republicans are on the MAGA team, right? They want Trump's agenda to be carried forward. That's what the American people want. The message was clear during election, right? The message was absolutely clear. And yet still, these people are standing in the way. And they have to go. And I've said over and over again, and so has my buddy K-Mag and Paul. There we go. Now I got it back. So they all said, we all agree The reason why governments all over the Western world that are supposed to be democratic, whether it's a representative democracy or a direct democracy, of which I think there's only one in Switzerland, are turning more and more tyrannical, getting more and more corrupt, not really serving the function they were, that they were meant to fulfill, right? The reason for that is because people, the citizens, who are supposed to be participating in the process of government, because it's a government by the people, for the people, supposedly, the people have gotten apathetic. It happened a long time ago. I don't know exactly when it was, but basically, at a certain point, the people were like, they got this. We'll just vote somebody in. They're going to figure it out. They're on our side. They're doing everything they can to help the American people or the German people or whoever it is, that whatever country you're in. And we just all assumed that they were never going to be nefarious towards us. They were never going to try to dupe us or fuck us over or lie to us. We just assumed they really wanted to do their job, and their intention was to serve the interest of the people of whatever country they're a politician in. Well, that changed, obviously, because, if you don't keep an eye on these fucking people and you don't make good choices in voting, well, then you're going to get people like Tom Tillis, you're going to get people like Biden, you're going to get the Democrats that just run rampant over the Constitution, the law, and everything that every sane value that America ever had. Those people have just basically run roughshod over all that shit. And the only reason they can do that is because they continue to get voted in by dumb, uninformed Americans who don't pay attention to what's going on. And so the people must be involved in these government processes as much as they can, as much as they have time for. And I'm telling you, all you have to do is pay attention to what your local representatives are doing and what your state representatives are doing. That's it. You don't have to be on their ass every day. You just have to get a broad overview. What are their standpoints? Well, in the case of Tom Tillis, this is all you need to know. This is a dude that believes that January 6th people are not to get fair judicial, a fair judicial process, right? That's what he believes. Well, that guy is unqualified to be in the Senate. He just is. Because his personal baby feelings over a thing that's not even really a thing, right? That's what's standing in the way of him putting forth a candidate that most of the other Republicans want. And most of the people would want. And Trump wants. Now again, I'm not saying that these people have to vote always to do what Trump wants. Because I think that after Doge goes in and identifies all the fucking problems with all the spending and all the NGOs and all the shit, all the money problems. Like 2 weeks later, the whole Congress votes again on a rubber stamp fucking bill, continuing resolution, again, to spend just let's rubber stamp the shit. Well, let's not look into it. Even though Doge already looked into it, we're going to rubber stamp the shit and pass another bill. Thomas Massie was against that. I applaud that. Now, Trump attacked Thomas Massie because he didn't go for it. Well, I don't care. See, I want people that stand on integrity, right? Not just go along with whatever agenda, right? And not just not go along with something because of their personal baby feelings about it. And that's hard to find, right? So Thomas Massie, I have respect for. Tom Tillis is a piece of shit. Tom Tillis is a piece of shit, and he should be removed. People need to start paying attention. Go to congress.gov, look up the page where your representative is on, and keep tabs on what they're doing. That's it. When it comes time to vote, that's November for Tom Tillis. November 2026. So he's still got a year and a half to do a shitload of damage, right? He still does. And so watch him for this next year and a half. Maybe he can redeem himself some way, but I don't think so, because basically if your standpoint is, yeah, I agree with the Constitution, I uphold the Constitution, I take an oath to the Constitution, but certain people are not allowed a defense in this country, even though they're American citizens, well, that's the wrong position by default, and that essentially disqualifies you on its own. So there's not much he could do to redeem himself unless he publicly states that he made a giant mistake by putting forth that as a reason, and that he's come to his senses and he no longer thinks that way about American citizens that were involved in January 6th. I don't see that happening. He's not going to turncoat on that. That's his position. That's what he really feels like. And if he now comes out and tries to change that position, well, that's just because he's worried about losing his seat. So basically, in the minds of the voters, this guy is already gone, right? Should be. It should be that all the voters in North Carolina that want to vote for this dude should now be saying, okay, as of today, I'm just waiting for November 2026 to come up so I can vote no on this fucker. He should already be doomed. And he should already be getting emails and phone calls telling him he's doomed. He might as well walk now, right? Now, I know that does a lot for that you shouldn't really get him to walk. He shouldn't quit, because then you lose the majority, I guess, or at least some of the majority. I don't know how much majority they actually have, but, apparently not much. So it might not be strategically the greatest move for him to leave now. But if he's going to be gone in November anyway, then start looking for somebody else. Put up another candidate. People in North Carolina should convince a good Republican to run against the guy, right? Because it would be horrible to have to vote in a Democrat to replace him. That would suck. But you see, those kind of things are a little necessary, right? These Congress people and senators need to be punished for their horrible behavior. And Tom Tillis is one of those people. That's what I think you guys should do. Take a look at what those Congress people and senators are doing. And look, when it comes time, get rid of this fucking guy. He's a RINO piece of shit who does not believe that January 6th defendants are allowed to have fair representation in court. That's his belief. So, that says enough to me. Either way, guys, enjoy your weekend. Hopefully it's a good one. Here in Germany, the weather is banging. So, that doesn't happen often. We've had a lot of good weather, so I'm going to enjoy it. We'll see you guys on Monday. Tomorrow, on Saturday, will come my rant about Shiloh. It's probably not going to be what you expect, but it'll be fun to listen to, I think, so check that out. The rant tomorrow on Saturday. Peace out, guys.